What's up, guys? Welcome back to my messy shop. Today is a much needed shop organization, shop improvement day, and we're gonna get this place looking good. Here we go. Okay, so this has been much needed for a while now. As you can see, things get out of hand quickly back here with lumber scraps and plywood scraps and cutoffs, and things just get, especially we're doing these bigger jobs, things get out of hand quickly. We do our best to try and keep things semi-clean in here while we're working through these projects, but definitely gets difficult. So today I'm spending the day and gonna overhaul this whole area. I need to come up with a better solution to store plywood scraps, what plywood scraps we need to save and what we can just throw out right away, because so many times you're just cutting and you take your scrap, your cut off piece, and we just stack it over here out of the way. And then you end up with this. So I wanna come up with something. Maybe it's a shelving unit with some different height shelves for certain length cutoffs and things like that, and just have like a standard size piece that, okay, if it's smaller than this, or if the grain is going this way or that way, whatever, on a certain piece, we just toss it. We can't keep every cutoff piece. And so just coming up with a better organizational thing to make this a little better and easier to stay on top of when we're doing these bigger projects. My miter saw station, we really only use this for rough cutting. Our hardwood, we really cut everything to its final size on the slider. But one thing that drives me absolutely insane is grabbing a piece of lumber, coming over to cut it, and I have to move scrap pieces out of the way because things are just always on here. It drives me nuts, and I want that to not be an issue. So we're gonna take care of this. My lumber rack needs to be organized. I usually try and keep on my lower racks here the lumber that we're working with for a specific project. So if it's a white oak project we're working on, I'll keep that all right here so it's easy access for me and the guys to come over and grab. And then the cutoffs, things get out of control quickly. I do have behind here this big opening in the cabinet that is almost full right now for like little cutoffs like this. I hate to throw this stuff away, even like, you know, really thin pieces that aren't gonna be used for anything. Like, this stuff is really good firewood, at least. I hate to throw away scrap hardwoods. So yeah, we're gonna take care of this, organize this. I need to get all the lumber that's on these carts. I have a bunch on the floor here, up on the rack, and let's just start here and get this thing organized. So as I started digging through this, man, I'm finding lumber from projects that we worked on months ago. It's just like crazy the amount of wood that we've processed in here this year. And you see me cutting up a lot of that stuff and going in the trash can. Anything that I'm cutting up is like too narrow or too small to do anything with, or has defects or cracks or something like that, and it's just not usable. So that's the stuff going in the trash can, and that will be firewood. Look at me, safety first. Put a mask on to empty out this vacuum, which was not as full as I thought it was going to be. I thought that thing was going to be like overflowing. But I do want to build a shroud for the miter saw just to help with dust collection a bit. I have it hooked up to one of those outlets, so when you turn the saw on, the vacuum kicks on. And it doesn't do the best job. It gets some of the dust, but it definitely does not get all of it. This miter saw station does really work well for us. I have like 11 feet to the right of the blade and like 90 inches to the left. Most of what we use is 10-foot material, so it has worked really well. All right, so when I originally designed this miter saw station, I made this is really deep. So I have a ton of room here behind the fence. And my thought with that was to be able to stack, you know, lumber or whatever. So, and it worked good for a while. So I think I'm gonna get back to that. I can stack long pieces over here. Maybe this will become for like the lumber for the projects we're working on currently. So if we're working on a white oak project, all the white oak will go here. And then obviously some shorter lengths can go over here. My problem is short stuff like this. So cutoffs like this, as you just saw, just get put up here, and then what happens, you know, is the mess that we just got off of here. So I have these cabinets underneath, and all of them are pretty full. Like there's a bunch of electrical stuff over here. This is just random stuff, old drawer slides. A lot of this stuff I could probably get rid of. This one though is, there's just a couple things in here. I have this little shop vac and some camping stuff. This can all come out. I have a shed in the back that can go in. I think I'm gonna take the doors off of this and have this be storage for smaller cutoffs that are still good, that aren't firewood necessarily. So I think I'll get rid of this, pop the doors off, and then we can utilize this space down here for lumber storage. I do have a full build video on this whole miter saw station. These cabinets are really deep. I can store a lot of stuff in there, and I think this is going to work really well. I'm adding some dividers in here for lumber, just so that things don't get stacked up too high, and then if you need a piece at the bottom, you know, you got to dig it out. So just adding a couple dividers down low and a wide shelf up above for some wider material. And I'm using this was just a scrap piece of particle board. A lot of times when we order our plywood and it comes on the truck, it always has like a cover sheet on the bottom, and so we always end up with random sheets of particle board or MDF or whatever. So this is like perfect to use up those sheets for. Lumber storage. These lumber racks, they're great. It's not the most ideal way to access your lumber, like especially the stuff up high. You got to climb up and get it down. But for this shop and the size of it, this is what we got. So it has worked well. We have run into times where we have a lot of lumber in the shop and there's just no way to put it all up there. But I typically am only bringing in lumber as we need it, so that we're not tripping over it as we work. And a lot of that cart was good stuff, and there was only a small amount that got chopped up for firewood. All right, miter saw station is done, cleaned up. I honestly, with all the crap I had over here and everything on that cart, I wasn't really sure if I would be able to get it all up onto here, but we did. It's amazing how much more space there is when things are organized. So we'll see how long this lasts. I'm gonna try and really stay on top of it and keep this area neat. I think this is gonna be a big help, because before, all this stuff was up here, and it's always like the little pieces that just pile up. So yeah, we'll just stay on top of cutoffs, what's garbage or firewood, and trying to stay busy or organized. This is all of my alder. The big project that's in the other room is mostly knotty alder. There is some paint grade stuff mixed in, and then this is all for my house, the quarter sawn white oak. So that's the stuff we're going to be using the most in the coming weeks. But yeah, this feels great. The next thing to do, as I mentioned, would be to do like a shroud for this, just to get the dust collection a little better, but for now it's fine. So yeah, let's move on to the plywood. Okay, this area is obviously needs some serious attention. There's like so much space back here, and it kind of just became like the catch-all for scraps and some random machines. I do have my coping shaper over here that gets used often. So yeah, what I'm thinking is I'm gonna pick through all this stuff, get rid of like the little stuff. Like a lot of these little cutoffs are just garbage, but there's a lot of good stuff in here too. So gonna kind of pull everything off, organize it. I'm thinking of building some sort of shelving unit here with different shelves, and that way a lot of the stuff can go on those shelves and be kind of free up all this area. So yeah, I'm just gonna start pulling this stuff out. So I'll be the first to admit that I'm as guilty as anybody for just leaning stuff up against the wall and getting it out of my way. When I'm working and I'm like in the zone, I'm just focused on the project, and my cutoffs and stuff just get tossed to the side. So having a place to put them will help. I also will admit I don't take a lot of time to make shop improvements, not as much as I should. Because a lot of times what happens is we're so busy during the week and whatever, and then whenever I do have time to do stuff like this, I don't always feel like it. So I need to be better at that for sure. There's always things that can be improved. And yeah, this is going to help us a lot, I think. And so there's so many things throughout the shop that could get improved for sure. And I really want to set aside some time every week to make some shop improvements. And so I'm utilizing some scrap material here to build this shelving unit. I'm just attaching some cleats to the side of this plywood rack. And then I'm going to build basically like a ladder with those two rips there on the other side. And then my shelves will sit on those cleats. And we end up with, the way we cut our plywood, all of our boxes are 3/4 pre-finished maple, and we always get a pretty good yield. There always ends up being some usable pieces after we cut, say, plywood for a kitchen. We do always end up with a lot of 1/2-inch material cutoffs that are still usable for backs on other cabinets once the way we cut them, but we always end up with a lot of 1/2-inch. And so I basically set the height of these shelves so that I could fit what most of our material cutoffs are. And then the longer stuff, there will still be a little bit of material that will lean against the wall, but most of it will fit on these shelves. So I added some extra cleats there just to support those pieces up above so they don't like fall through the gaps there. But I got all that material that was on the wall onto these racks and some of it back onto the wall. And I did throw away a little bit, but it was really minimal. There honestly was not that much that got tossed. And so this whole area is looking so much better. And now I'm kind of motivated to keep working my way through the shop and make some more improvements. All right, guys, that's it for this week's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This was much needed, and I still am kind of blown away with how much space there actually is just with having things organized. I did obviously get rid of some plywood scraps and some of the lumber, but it wasn't as much as I thought that I got rid of. So yeah, gonna try and really stay on top of this. We got the plywood rack, nice and organized. So on Monday, I'll go over with the guys just like, hey, any piece smaller than this, we're just getting rid of it. And we're not gonna stack things up against the wall so we can keep things manageable in here. But this is just the first part of the many things that I want to do in here. Gonna just this week try and work my way through the shop. I have, I wanted to get into the other room today, but this took much longer than expected. So yeah, next week will be a cool video. I have a really cool mudroom I'm gonna be building this week for our next big project. The guys will be working on the kitchen and stuff like that, and I will be working on the mudroom. So that will be fun, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. All my links are down below. See you next week. Peace.